that. I just mean, like,
Make your life.
She taught me that.
I usually don't go outside because of it. Thank you.
Drains battery.
Oh, yeah.
I used to do that at CVS all the time. Turn it down.
All right, social medias are turned on. Stand by.
All right.
All right, you are live.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Chris Sowers here. It is Saturday afternoon, about 4:40 p.m., and we have potentially a dangerous situation starting to develop here across the state of Pennsylvania. Let's go over to the radar. We have an enhancement now. The Storm Prediction Center has now put most of the viewing area under a level 3 out of level 5. We were originally a level 2, so now they've upgraded it to a level 3. It still looks like winds will be the primary threat, but there's also a hail threat with this too, and now there is a tornado threat to go along with this, and we'll get into all of that in a moment. What I want to do here first is lead off with the radar. There's a lot going on here, so let me kind of take this these features one at a time. First, if you look at the red circles, okay, those are mesoscale discussions that are issued by the Storm Prediction Center. So you can see one actually right over the Philadelphia area, and what they are saying here is there's a 95% chance that a severe thunderstorm watch is going to be issued shortly. Okay, there's a look at the mesoscale discussion. And the Storm Prediction Center is concerned about winds potentially up to 70 miles per hour with this. Now keep in mind, hurricane force winds begin at 74. So we're kind of getting into some rare territory here. You don't see storm systems produce this kind of wind very often. But now we're in that 70 to 75 mile per hour range, potentially. Not every storm will produce that, but there is the possibility that some of the storms could produce that. I mean, think about how breezy it is right now. These are surface-based winds, all right? And we don't even have any storms here right now. We're already seeing gusts well over 30 miles per hour in parts of the area. All right, so there's also a tornado risk. It is on the low side, but if you tuned in earlier today, we weren't even in a risk at all. So that has been upgraded, and the hail threat has been upgraded too. All right, now we go out to the west across the Harrisburg television market. There's a lot going on here. The brighter yellows, that's where we have severe thunderstorm warnings. They are up for areas south and west of Harrisburg. You can see the counties there around Chambersburg. Big storms flaring up out there. Winds over 65 miles per hour, and we have pea to marble-sized hail being reported with some of these too. And they're moving very, very quickly, and in some cases close to 35 miles per hour. All right, so it's not going to take long. If you're outdoors, you have outdoor plans, it's not going to take long to get these storms over if the horizon starts to turn black. All right, also notice to the north around the State College area, there's another line. So what looks like is going to end up happening here is the line towards Williamsport probably will move from west to east across the Lehigh Valley and the Poconos. And then that other line to the south is the one that will likely blow through the heart of the Philadelphia area. So we're waiting on the National Weather Service to post a watch for the Philadelphia area. And then we'll see again over the next couple of hours, you know, how far east these storms travel and if they maintain it. There it is right there. There's the, look at that. There's a look at the severe thunderstorm watch. It was just issued right in front of your eyes there by the National Weather Service. And what you're looking at, again, if you read what's in the box here, the tornado threat is low, all right, but there's still a threat nonetheless. All right, hail potentially up to 1 inch in diameter, okay? And we have the winds potentially up to 70 miles per hour. So if you look towards the far left-hand part of your screen, do you see those little dots there, the blue dots, and there's a couple orange ones? Those are storm damage reports already. So this line has a history of producing wind damage and isolated tornadoes along with some hail. And you can see it did a number there on the Pittsburgh metro area. Now it's pushing through Johnstown and Altoona. It looks like actually it's right over Gettysburg now. Beautiful part of the state. My wife and I actually went out there to visit the battlefield and everything. A lot of beautiful land out there, a lot of country. But they got some pretty big thunderstorms out there right now and a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. But you can see, look at the 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts reported there south of Pittsburgh. So that's what's potentially on the way as it pushes to the east. Let's go over. Yep, there's a look at the watch there. If we can go into a split box, I want to introduce my friend here real quick, Dan. He's going to be helping me out. We are staying What happened? Do me a favor, Drew. Can you put me back on the split? Because Dan is going to be helping me out here. There he is. How you doing, Dan?
Hey, everybody.
So we're staying at the Hotel Dan Flamma here for the next week. We were just at the Hotel Gary Sowers last week, and so we're going to be staying at the Hotel Dan Flamma and then possibly back at the Hotel Gary Sowers until we make settlement on our home later this month. So we got a lot going on here. All right, back to the maps. All right, let's go to the model data. All right, Drew, my buddy Drew, one of our teammates here. He's in northern Alabama. He's going to be helping us out with all of the graphical support today. So everybody say hi to Drew. And Drew, do we have the chat going live? So people, if they need to ask questions, can write their question in the chat and we can see it. Do we have that hooked up? Okay, it looks like we do. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to be able to actually read your questions here as I'm going over some of this information for you, okay? Right now, it looks like I don't have too many questions. The Lansdale for tournaments, how do we look? Everybody, honestly, everybody's under the gun here. Let's go back to the outlooks before we go to the model data. I'm sorry, Drew, I know I'm confusing you here. So, the outlooks, which were just, I would say, upgraded within like the last hour. All right, there we go. Okay, so you rarely want to see the orange, okay? We get a lot of days where you see the yellows. That's a level 2 out of 5. That's what the Storm Prediction Center labels as a level 2. And what a level 2 usually means is you're generally looking at severe weather, something a little more concentrated in the area in yellow as opposed to what you would see in the dark shade of green. So the dark shade of green, which includes Atlantic City, Cape May, south of Dover, most of Sussex County, and then west into the Washington, D.C. area. What that dark green shade means is isolated, all right? Just a spotty thunderstorm could turn severe. You get into the yellow, it's scattered, meaning a little more widespread activity. And then you start getting into that orange, and then that's where the Storm Prediction Center is looking at the potential for widespread severe weather, including linear structures type storms, lines pushing through, and supercells. Supercells are the ones that usually produce the rotation. So in that area that you see shaded in orange, that's where we have the best chance of picking up that kind of weather over the next several hours. Let's flip it over to the wind threat. We'll start here, and the wind threat you can see is great. As you see that hatched purple area, that does include the I-95 corridor. It includes Trenton, it includes Philadelphia, it includes Wilmington, and all areas north and west. The Lehigh Valley, far western counties, King of Prussia, Boyertown, Pottstown, Doylestown, Westchester, Chester, just north of Wilmington. Everybody is in that purple hatched area. That's where we have the greatest chances of seeing damaging winds over the next few hours. And then obviously as you get away from that hatched purple area, the threat diminishes. Okay, let's go over to the hail threat real quick, Drew, and we'll show the viewers that. The hail threat is still very, very low across the Philadelphia area. It's a little more pronounced, though, out there towards Harrisburg and State College. Now, as we're going to flip it over to the tornado threat, this is what's concerning me a little bit. Now, it is low, okay? But if you remember, when I did an update earlier today, we weren't even in the green. The green was confined to western Pennsylvania. Well, now it does include a large part of the Philadelphia television market. Let's say from Running Deer, all right, Running Deer Golf Course out there in southern New Jersey, north, up and through Philadelphia, Allentown, Trenton, just west of Toms River, and then all areas north and west. There is a low threat for tornadoes with this now, okay? So like we said earlier, even with a low threat, you still have to, stay on guard here and pay close attention. In this part of the country, a lot of times you don't get the big tornadoes, you get those quick-hitting spin-ups. And those quick-hitting spin-ups, they do hit so fast that a lot of times they're on the ground and off the ground before the Weather Service can even punch up the radar, or excuse me, the warning. All right, that's how quickly those spin-ups can happen. So that's the kind of weather that we could potentially see over the next couple of hours as these storms push to the east. Okay, now let's go over to the model data, Drew. And here's a look at the timeline and what we could potentially be facing down the road. How are we looking over there, Dan? Anything new?
No, everything's under a watch.
Okay, just the
a
watch
couple
for now.
warnings.
And some warnings out of the television market. All right, so here, this is what the HRRR, it's one of the high-resolution forecast models, suggests the radar is going to look like around 5 o'clock this afternoon. So if you have outdoor plans, all right, and you live in the far western counties, Lancaster, Berks, Lehigh, Northampton, as well as the Poconos, if that sky starts looking dark to the northwest, probably a pretty good idea not to waste too much time, get to a safe spot, because the storms, remember, are moving very, very quickly. So let's advance this slowly. Let's go over to 6 o'clock. That's what the radar could potentially look like at 6. Now, do you see those little bullseyes, if you will, those little blobs of red? Those could potentially be supercells, all right? Those are the storms that would produce the rotation. Let's advance this to 7. All right, 7 o'clock, again, Philadelphia, South Jersey, Delaware, you're still fine, okay? But areas north and west, especially the Lehigh Valley, you're getting hit pretty good. Traveling up the northeast extension, into Allentown and Bethlehem and Emmaus and Macungie and all the way up into the Poconos. It's going to be a slow ride at that point. Big, big thunderstorms. And then to the west of Philadelphia, Westchester probably getting hit pretty good. There's 8 o'clock. Now the line, it's broken, but now the line is over Philadelphia. Let's go to 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock this evening. And notice there's not too much more. What did you notice as we progressed along here with the timeline? Notice how everything kind of weakened as it approached the coast. That's the marine layer pushing inland a little bit. And that's the one thing that saves the Jersey Shore a lot of times. The marine layer is stable air. So the farther away you get from the ocean, the more unstable the air mass becomes. And that's why a lot of times with these events, these storms pushing in from the west, it's usually the far western counties that get hit the hardest because they're the farthest away from the ocean. So, you know, we often joke around, like we'll say the Cape May bubble or, you know, the bubble in the wildwoods and things like that. Well, there's truth to that because you're surrounded by water, and water usually stabilizes the atmosphere. Okay, let's advance it to 10 o'clock. Let's see what the model looks like then. All right, you can see there's not too much going on at that point. How about 11? Let's go to 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, just something spotty south of Philadelphia. Okay, and then by midnight, all right, we still got some action going on across South Jersey. At this point, though, the severe threat is probably done. All right, once the sun goes down, you start losing the energy from the sun, and the winds will start to calm down a little bit. This is probably what you're looking at there in South Jersey is probably just a couple of quick-hitting downpours. The severe threat is going to be with that main line as it pushes through later this afternoon and into the evening hours. Okay, so what we're looking at here. What do we got going on there, Drew? Okay, here's a look at... Actually, I'm not sure. Is this the Cape values, Drew? Is this what we're looking at here? I believe this is Cape, right? I'm not sure what we're toggled on. Yes, it's surface-based Cape. So let's rewind that a little bit. Let's go back a couple hours. All right, what Cape stands for is convective available potential energy. The higher this number... All right, let's stop right there. All right, so the higher this number gets, the more unstable the atmosphere becomes. Now, when I was chief meteorologist out there in Bowling Green, Kentucky, I would see this number sometimes in the 4,000 to 6,000 range. I mean, we were on the edge of Tornado Alley, and we would get insane Cape numbers. But for this part of the country, you don't usually get too much higher than 2 to 3. All right, so what you're looking at here is somewhere in between 1,000 and 2,000 off to the west. All right, so there is instability here. I've seen it much worse, but we have a lot of upper level support with the wind field. Okay, so that's going to aid in the development of this cluster of storms that'll be pushing through. All right, that's 6 o'clock this evening. Still got some pretty high Cape values. And then as we march along through 7, see that? You see how that's, look at that by 8. There's not much left. So again, the initial thump, that initial push is going to be our most concern. All right, and then things should settle down after that. All right, let's go back over to the radar, Drew, and let's see what's going on here. So we have now severe thunderstorm watch boxes up from Pittsburgh all the way to Philadelphia and the Jersey Shore, actually. We don't have any warnings right now across the Philadelphia television market. All the warnings are off to the west. The closest warning is in Schuylkill County, all right, which does include it does include Pottsville. All right, you can see how far in advance they are warning that storm out there right now that is just west of Hazleton. That's because this storm is moving so quickly. Again, it's moving. Drew, can we put the cursor on there? Can we get a forward speed on this? I believe it's moving up to 40 miles per hour. But that's why I was saying, if you're out there, all right, so it has 60 miles. It's moving 34 miles per hour. Okay. Impact, thunderstorms along the line. Moving east. Okay, there it is. Moving east at 45 miles per hour. Okay, so that's why they are warning these storms so far in advance, and that's why I said earlier, if you have outdoor plans, like maybe your son or your daughter has got a t-ball game or a softball game or something going on, and you're outdoors, okay, you see the sky that's, it's starting to turn dark, don't hesitate, start to take shelter, start to think about where you're going to go here, because these storms are moving so fast, they're going to be on you before you know it. All right, down to the south, that's encouraging. South of Harrisburg, it does appear as if that is starting the weekend. Are we on the State College radar? Let's go on to the State College radar, Drew. All right, that's okay. You want to do that one? That's where's that one? Is that the one down there in Maryland? Okay, good. There's State College. All right, we were on the other radar. So that's what it looks like on the State College radar. It does still look pretty impressive. Okay, and there's the warning that was just issued now. It looks like that was extending east into portions of York County. It looks like York itself is not in the warning, but areas to the west of York are. This does include Chambersburg and Gettysburg. The downtown Harrisburg area is not in a warning yet, but you might be soon. All right, so that's what we're up against here. Okay, so up at this point, all right, I'm not going to go wall to wall with this yet. We've still got some time here, but up to this point, we've seen some pretty good weather off to the west, and again, the main concern over the next couple of hours will be for strong gusty winds, potentially in excess of 65 or 70 miles per hour. Remember, hurricane force winds begin at 74. Those are big wind gusts. All the trees have leaves on them now. Sometimes the trees, when they're full bloom like this, they can act like a canopy, all right, and the wind catches it, and boom, you start looking at uprooted trees. Okay, also power lines. All those blue circles out there around State College and just south and west of Johnstown, those are wind damage reports already, and there's a lot of them out there. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna come back. I just want to. This is me trying to let everybody know that things could get a little dicey here over the next few hours. So what we'll do is we'll keep you warned here. For now, we're going to, as they say in television, go back to our regularly scheduled program.
Here's your forecast for Philadelphia. Here's your forecast for Allentown. Here's your forecast for Atlantic City. Here is the Storm Prediction Center. Severe weather outlook for today. Now the Storm Prediction Center. Outlook for tomorrow. Finally, the severe weather outlook for the day after tomorrow. RIP current forecast for today. RIP current forecast for tomorrow. Here's your forecast for Philadelphia. Here's your forecast for Allentown. Here's your forecast for Atlantic City. Here is the Storm Prediction Center. Severe weather outlook for today. Now the Storm Prediction Center. Outlook for tomorrow. Finally, the severe weather outlook for the day after tomorrow. RIP current forecast for today. RIP current forecast for tomorrow.